It is a war we are still fighting today, in our classrooms, on our screens, in our own minds. Who gets to write history? Who decides what is true? And what secrets are still buried beneath our feet, waiting for a curious hand to brush away the dust? The story is never over. You are standing on a hill, looking not at a medieval landscape, but at the glittering electric web of a modern city, the world you helped build. And there are shells, not of books, but of scrolls, clay tablets, and leather-bound codices like your own. An old man with a long white beard, who introduces himself as Brother Cadfael, a name you know he invented, greets you not with suspicion, but with a warm bowl of stew. He is the librarian, and he has been waiting for you. The book chose you, he says, his voice calm and steady. It reveals itself only to those who are ready to see. They look up, their faces blank with the resigned exhaustion that is the birthright of their class. 99% of people believe in the three-field system as the great agricultural innovation of the age. But that's the sanitized version. What this book in your tunic hints at is something far more complex. A system of companion planting, soil enrichment using specific types of ash and bone meal, and crop rotation based on stellar and lunar cycles. Knowledge that could double a harvest, knowledge that could mean the difference between a village starving or surviving the winter. They rewrote history to portray the common person as helpless and ignorant, in need of salvation and control. They created the Dark Ages to hide the light they had worked so hard to extinguish. They buried the evidence beneath their monasteries, confident it would never be found. But they were wrong. The truth, like a river, always finds its way to the surface. What this forbidden history teaches us is that the struggle for knowledge, the war between control and freedom, is the central story of humanity. How to read bent twigs, how to use the wind to hide your scent, how to walk without making a sound. It's a masterclass in guerrilla tactics, passed down from people who lived on the knife's edge of starvation. You reach the quarry entrance. Two massive weathered stones lean against each other, looking like a natural formation. But you see the faint, almost invisible weaver's knot carved into one. You slip between them. It's not a cave, it's a library. The quarry has been hollowed out into a vast, vaulted chamber, lit by clever shafts that catch the daylight. The woods were not just home to wolves, but to outlaws, desperate men, and the Lord's justice, which was often more savage than any beast. You are a child, property of the church, and you have stolen their most guarded secret. The punishment for that is not a flogging, it's erasure. You burst through the tree line, lungs screaming for air, and find yourself on the edge of a peasant's field. A man and a boy, his son, are already at work with a heavy plow, turning the dark, wet earth. They possessed a science of their own, one based on observation, tradition, and a respectful partnership with nature. The church and the nobility understood that this knowledge was power. The power to heal without a priest's prayer, the power to grow food without a lord's permission, the power to navigate by the stars, not by a king's decree, the power, ultimately, to think for oneself. And so they waged a war against it. They called it magic and punished it as heresy. They called it witchcraft and burned it at the stake. The historical fact that shatters assumptions is that this is not wilderness. Every inch of this land is owned, managed, and exploited. The trees are a crop, the animals are the Lord's property, and you are a trespasser. To be caught here is to be presumed a poacher, a crime punishable by mutilation or death. You move like a ghost, using the techniques of silence and camouflage the book describes in a section on hunting, not for sport, but for survival. Suddenly, the barn door creaks open. A silhouette stands there, a man you recognize as the abbot's brutal Reeve. Elspeth shoves the book back into your hands. Run, she hisses. Don't let the flame go out. You are running through the pre-dawn mist, the wet grass soaking your woolen hose. The shouts behind you are getting closer. The book is tucked inside your tunic, a cold, rectangular weight against your frantic heart. What they don't want you to know is that the idyllic medieval countryside was a landscape of terror. And 100 years from now, a man in Poland will look up at the sky and have the courage to write down a truth for which you and countless others lived and died. The great medieval cover-up was not about a single secret. It was not one book, one map, or one invention. It was about suppressing a fundamental and dangerous truth: that ordinary people, peasants, charcoal burners, and midwives were not simple-minded fools. They were the inheritors of a deep, practical, and sophisticated body of knowledge about the world. The official history, the one written by the nobility and the church, is a thin layer of soil thrown over a much deeper, more complex, and more dangerous reality. You now have the skills to see that buried world, and you realize, with a jolt of fear and exhilaration, that the book is not just a collection of secrets, it is teaching you how to think. You are climbing the hill of the silent man, the quarry a dark gash near the summit. The air grows thin and cold. A historical fact that shatters assumptions. Many so-called potions were sophisticated herbal remedies. Willow bark for pain, a natural source of salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. Foxglove for heart ailments, the basis for the modern drug digitalis. This wasn't magic, it was medicine. This, Elspeth whispers, her finger tracing a diagram of a human body, napped not with saints, but with energy pathways, is what they fear. Not the devil, us, knowing. The modern parallel is stark. Think of pharmaceutical companies trying to suppress natural, unpatentable cures. The game hasn't changed, only the players. A long, slow, bloody war between those who believe knowledge should be controlled and those who believe it should be free. A war that has never, ever ended. Your life is not one of glory. You will not be remembered in any history book. You will die in a small, quiet room, your name forgotten. But the pages you copied will be passed on. The ideas you shared will take root. As you pull yourself onto the opposite bank, shivering, you see the Baron's men riding along the ridge above. They stare down at the river, never even considering the possibility of a forgotten crossing. They are blinded by their own worldview. They see a simple peasant world of mud and wood. They are completely ignorant of the older stone world that lies just beneath the surface. It's a powerful metaphor for the entire cover-up. The witches weren't consorting with Satan. They were often the last librarians of a forgotten science. Elspeth opens the book. The pages are not parchment, but a strange, thin vellum. And the writing is not Latin. It's a mix of a strange runic script and impossibly detailed drawings. You see charts of the stars, but they are not the crude approximations you've seen in the monastery. These are complex, mapping the heavens with a terrifying precision. You see diagrams of plants, their roots, their flowers, with notes on their use for everything from easing childbirth to setting bones. You recognize them by a phrase, a symbol, a question about the stars. You share what you know. You copy pages from your book and receive copied pages from theirs. The network is not broken. It is alive. A modern connection. You are the original peer-to-peer file-sharing network, a decentralized, resilient system for preserving and distributing dangerous information, operating in the shadows of a vast, centralized empire. The historical fact that shatters assumptions. Humanity's trajectory was not inevitable. It was a battle. There they are, a cluster of purple loosestrife, just as the drawing indicated. The water is fast and shockingly cold, but the ford is real. The stones are slippery beneath your bare feet, but they hold. 99% of people never learn this. The medieval world was built on the ghost of the Roman one. Roads, aqueducts, and foundations were everywhere. Their original purpose forgotten by many, but not by all. This hidden knowledge of the old world was a source of immense practical power. So the little mouse found the serpent's egg, Elspeth says, her voice like the rustle of dry leaves. She is not the stooped, crazed crone from the abbot's sermons. Her eyes are sharp, shockingly intelligent. She takes the book from your numb fingers, her touch surprisingly gentle. 99% of people believe the witch hunts were about religious hysteria. The forbidden truth is that they were often targeted campaigns to eliminate bearers of folk knowledge, healers and herbalists whose practical wisdom threatened the church's monopoly on miracles. The Renaissance was not a sudden miracle. It was the moment when enough of these hidden streams, these scattered seeds of knowledge, finally broke through to the surface at the same time. You are one of those seeds. You spend the next years of your life in motion. You work as a scribe in Genoa, a navigator's apprentice in Lisbon, a physician's assistant in Padua. You never stay in one place for too long. You never speak of the library, but in each city, you find them, the other weavers. The safe haven Pierre spoke of is an abandoned Roman quarry on a hill known as the Silent Man. To get there, you must cross a river. The only bridge is guarded. The secret that changed everything is learning to see the hidden landscape. The book shows a diagram, not of a bridge, but of Roman-era river fords, marked by specific riverside plants that only grow in shallow water. It's a map hidden in botany. You follow the river for a mile downstream, your eyes scanning the bank. You run blindly through a darkness that feels absolute, the abbot's muffled shouts fading behind you. The tunnel slopes sharply upwards. You stumble out from behind a hayrick, not into the monastery grounds, but into the peasant's tithe barn. And standing there, illuminated by a single lantern, is the village midwife, old Elspeth, the woman the abbot condemned last Sunday as a witch. She looks at the book in your hand, and for the first time in your life, you see her smile. You are watching from a distant ridge as the sun rises. The quarry on the Silent Man is silent once more. The Baron's men are crawling all over it, but they will find nothing but a rockfall, a geological accident. They will never know the treasure that was, and still is, buried beneath their feet. You are alone, but you are not empty. You are a vessel. What they don't want you to know is that history is not a straight line. It is a river that flows underground, disappearing for centuries, only to emerge again in unexpected places. They are an act of defiance. They are the belief that a person's life should be more than just suffering and submission. The girl at the post meets your eyes. There is no fear in them, only fire. It's a look that says, "We will endure this, we will remember." And you know your mission is no longer just about survival. It's about ensuring that memory, that fire, is not extinguished. The Baron's lands are a chessboard, and you are a single, unprotected pawn. The ASMR quality sound is the faint oiled click of a latch as you ease it open. You slip through into another passage, this one narrower, smelling of hay and manure. It's a bolt hole, an escape route. But where does it lead? What they don't want you to know is that beneath the veneer of piety, medieval life was a brutal game of survival, and knowledge was the most dangerous weapon of all. Imagine being 12 years old, and this is your reality. Your protectors are your hunters, and a book is more deadly than a sword. He and a few of the oldest scholars are staying behind. They will collapse the entrance, buying you time, burying themselves with the bulk of the library to protect it, to turn it from a discovery into a myth. It is a sacrifice of such magnitude, it takes your breath away. You are no longer a boy. You are a librarian, a weaver, a memory keeper. You slip out a hidden rear exit, a crack in the rock face, the satchel a sacred weight on your back, and begin the descent into a world that wants you dead. It wasn't a bug in the system, it was the feature. A society built on such a steep pyramid of power can only be maintained by constant, visible terror. As you huddle in the crowd, pretending to be just another grimy face, you feel a modern connection so powerful it makes you sick. The public shaming on social media, the political show trials, the use of fear to control and silence. The tactics are the same. You clutch the book, the diagrams of the stars, the recipes for healing, the designs for a better plow. They are not just information. You hold your breath until your lungs burn, the leather of the book digging into your palm. This isn't about a missing oblate. It's about this object. This book is a secret so dangerous, they would kill to protect it. Historians have hidden this for centuries. The fact that the church wasn't just a spiritual authority. It was an intelligence agency, a vast network for the acquisition and suppression of information. You must move. You feel your way along the curved wall, praying for an exit. Your fingers brush against something that isn't stone. It's wood, a door. The plan is to evacuate, to melt into the landscape and become ghosts. Each of you a seed of this forbidden world. It is a desperate gamble. The custodes are coming with soldiers, the Baron's men. The ASMR quality sound is the frantic, quiet rustle of packing, the low murmur of instructions, the ticking clock of your own mortality. As dusk falls, a lookout gives the signal. Torches are visible at the bottom of the hill. An army of darkness coming for the light. Cadfael places a hand on your shoulder. Go, he says. Live, remember, become the story. The real one was far more common and cruel. The right to seize a peasant's best livestock, his grain or his daughter, for any reason or no reason at all. A young woman is tied to a post in the village square, her head shaved, for refusing the Baron's steward. The villagers are forced to watch, their faces a mask of impotent fury. This is what power looks like, not just castles and armies, but the casual daily humiliation of the powerless. What they don't want you to know is that the cruelty was the point. You snatch the book, its weight surprisingly heavy, and plunge into the shadows on the far side of the chamber, pressing yourself into the cold, weeping stone. The torchlight of another appears in the tunnel. It is the abbot, and he is not holding a crucifix. He is holding a knife. The abbot's voice echoes in the chamber, low and venomous. He's not calling your name. He's whispering to someone else, someone you cannot see. The seal is broken. The boy found it. The most precious books are wrapped in oiled leather and packed into satchels. You are each given one. Your original book, the one from the monastery, is now your charge. Maps are drawn from memory, showing the locations of other smaller caches of knowledge, other silent man hills. 99% of people think of a library as a building. The forbidden truth is that a real library is a network of people. It is knowledge that is alive, carried in hands and minds, ready to be planted in new soil. You are sleeping in ditches, the damp cold seeping into your bones. You are eating berries and stolen turnips, the hunger a constant dull ache in your belly. 97% of medieval children never lived to see their 10th birthday, and you are beginning to understand why. It's not just disease. It's the sheer, grinding attrition of a world with no safety net. Your journey takes you through a village that is being punished. The Baron has invoked the droit de seigneur, the Lord's right, but not the fictional one you've heard of. It's too small, bound in dark, unmarked leather, fastened with a bronze clasp in the shape of a serpent eating its own tail. 99% of people think medieval peasants were illiterate. While literacy was rare, they possessed a different kind of text, the language of the land, of the stars, of the human body, a language the church was desperate to make them forget. This book feels different, alive. As you reach out, your fingers trembling, you hear a sound from the tunnel behind you, the scrape of a boot, a cough quickly suppressed. You are not alone, not anymore. To run is to condemn this place and everyone in it. The knowledge in your head and heart is now a part of this library, and you are a part of it. What they don't want you to know is that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the acceptance of responsibility. You, Cadfael, and the others spend the next day not sharpening swords, but preparing for a different kind of battle. The battle of memory. You are not preparing to fight. You are preparing to scatter. Piers tells you of a place, a safe haven, a hidden library where other such books are kept. It is a 3-day journey through lands controlled by a ruthless baron loyal to your abbot. He gives you a new disguise, the tattered clothes of a beggar's child, and a new name. As you leave the smoky clearing, the weight of the book feels different. It is no longer just a secret. It is a responsibility, a legacy placed in your small, trembling hands. 3 days in your world. That is a lifetime. What they don't want you to know is how much of the old world survived, hidden in plain sight. Its knowledge hoarded by the very people who publicly condemned it as pagan. You walk, your bare feet sticking to the slick floor. The air is so still, you can hear the blood pounding in your ears, the wet sound of your own breathing. Ahead, the tunnel opens into a small, circular chamber. In the center sits a stone pedestal, and on it, a book. It's not a Bible. Cadfael and the half-dozen other quiet scholars of the library are not warriors. They are librarians, healers, thinkers. You are a child, and the full, brutal weight of the medieval power structure is about to fall upon this place. They are coming, Cadfael says. not with fear, but with a profound sadness. And we must ensure the weaver's work is not undone. The cliffhanger is a choice. Do you flee to save yourself and the one book you carry? Or do you stay and fight for this entire world of knowledge? The choice is an illusion. You cannot run. A society based on shared, practical knowledge rather than top-down, mystical authority. You feel a profound connection to these unseen ancestors, this secret lineage of thinkers and doers. It's the same feeling a modern person gets discovering a family story of resistance, realizing they are part of a longer, braver story than they ever knew. The ASMR quality detail is the soft, rhythmic puff of the charcoal mounds, like a sleeping giant's breath, a constant reminder of the slow, steady work that underpins civilization. Your world is about to split open, and you have to decide if you're brave enough to fall in. A single torch is all you have. Its light a feeble, desperate thing against the suffocating blackness. You've squeezed through the opening, the rough stones snagging at your woolen tunic, and lowered yourself into a tunnel. It is not a crypt, it is older. The stonework is Roman, no clumsy medieval mortar here, but perfectly fitted blocks, cold and sweating with damp. You were followed, not by men, but by a system, a network of informers, of pardoned criminals and zealous priests that watches the roads and listens in the taverns. The baron's cruelty, the guards on the bridge, it was all a net, and you swam right through it. The sense of dread is a physical thing, a cold weight in your gut. You look at this haven of light and reason, and you see it through the eyes of the abbot. You see it as a nest of heresy that must be burned to the ground. The weaver's knot, he explains, represents the three threads of knowledge: the sky above, astronomy; the earth below, agriculture; and the body within, medicine. What they don't want you to know is that heresy wasn't always about theology. Often, it was the label slapped on any organized system of thought that competed with the church. The Cathars, the Lollards. We remember their religious descent, but we forget their social and intellectual challenges to the status quo. They were crushed, not just for their beliefs, but for the threat of the parallel society they represented. It smells of something other than death. It smells of wet soil, of roots, and of something metallic and ancient, like a forgotten secret tasting of rust. This is how it starts, not with a thunderclap from God, but with a quiet curiosity in the dark. It's the same feeling that drives a scientist to question a theory today, the same itch that makes an investigator look at a cold case one more time. You are now a part of a story that has been waiting for a hero, or perhaps a victim. This is the heart of the great medieval cover-up. It wasn't just about hiding facts, it was about managing reality. You tell Cadfael about the abbot, the reeve, and your flight. He grows grim. The abbot is not just a local tyrant. He is part of a larger order, a secret society within the church dedicated to hunting down and destroying these pockets of preserved knowledge. They are called the Custodes Fidei, the guardians of the faith, and they know about the library. They have been searching for it for a century. Your arrival has inadvertently led them here. He then lifts his tunic, revealing the same symbol tattooed on his ribs in faded blue ink. The sign of the weaver. Piers whispers, his voice rough. My grandfather bore it, and his before him. The secret that changed everything wasn't a single fact, but the realization of a network. This wasn't just one book, it was a legacy. a hidden, underground tradition of knowledge passed down through generations, a silent rebellion fought with planting cycles and medicinal recipes. 99% of people believe medieval monasteries were built from scratch, monuments to faith. The truth is, they were tactical. Most were built atop older pagan sites, or even more strategically, on the ruins of Roman villas and forts, cannibalizing their stones, and as you're about to learn, burying their secrets. You press down, the stone gives a little. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. The ASMR quality scrape of stone against stone grates in the silence as you pry the edge with your fingertips. A gust of air rushes up to meet you. Cadfael shows you a text describing basic principles of quarantine and hygiene, knowledge from a Roman physician that could have saved thousands. The plague wasn't just a tragedy, it was an opportunity to reinforce faith through fear, to eliminate dissenters, and to consolidate power in the face of chaos. Your grief turns to a cold, hard rage. The modern connection is inescapable. Imagine knowing the cure for a pandemic, but watching authorities push useless, expensive treatments because the real cure is too simple, too cheap, and gives too much power to the people. And 99% of people never learned this. The most dangerous thing a ruling class can give its subjects is time to think. Time to look up from the dirt and ask, why are you in a castle while I am in a hovel? The metallic taste of fear is still in your mouth, but now it's mixed with something else, a burning curiosity. This book isn't just about herbs and stars. It's a manual for a different world, a world that was stolen. Piers points to a symbol on the page, a knot of 3 interlocking triangles. You are an oblate, a child given to God, and your world is defined by the clang of the bell and the drone of Latin prayer. The abbot has tasked you with cleaning the lower ossuary, a place the other boys fear. It's a place of bone-deep cold and the cloying, sweet smell of decay. As you work, your worn leather shoe scuffs against a loose floor tile. It makes a hollow sound, not the dead thud of stone on earth, but the resonant echo of a space beneath. You see philosophical treatises that speak of reason, observation, and individual conscience. It's a parallel culture, a complete worldview, hidden from history. The ASMR detail is the soft whisper of turning pages, the faint crinkle of ancient vellum, a sound of quiet rebellion against a world of loud, brutal ignorance. And you learn the darkest truth of all. The recent plague, the one that carried off a third of your village, the one the abbot blamed on sin and witches? Piers cannot read, but he can look at pictures. You open it to a page showing a diagram of a plow, but it's not the clumsy, heavy-wheeled plow you've always seen. It has a curved moldboard and a coulter, designed to turn the heavy, wet soil of Northern Europe with far less effort. It is a revolutionary design. The historical fact that shatters assumptions, the modern image of the back-breaking medieval plow, is a deliberate caricature. Innovations existed, but were often suppressed. Why? Because a more efficient plow meant more food, which meant more free time. Drop a comment with the medieval fact that surprised you most, or what role you think you'd play if you were born in the year 1287. Let's begin and live the life they never got to finish. But be warned, some truths about the past are harder to forget than others. The secret they don't want you to know is that the monastery's founder wasn't a saint. He was a Roman engineer. Your knuckles are raw from scrubbing the flagstones, the lye soap eating at your skin. But they suppressed the knowledge for one simple, devastating reason. If the earth is not the center of God's creation, then the church is not the unquestionable center of human authority. If the divine order can be questioned, the social order can be overthrown. That is the secret worth killing for. You spend days in the library. You see medical texts with detailed anatomical drawings that are centuries ahead of their time, showing a clear understanding of the circulatory system. You see agricultural plans that treat the soil not as dirt, but as a living ecosystem. He offers you a piece of hard, black bread without asking your name or why you are running. Survival in your world depends on a network of whispers. What they don't want you to know is that the peasant class, dismissed as a mindless mob, maintains sophisticated channels of communication, a hidden web of rumor and coded language that was largely invisible to their masters. Piers recognizes the subtle sign the farmer gave you. He knows you are hare, and the abbot's men are hounds. While you chew the bread, your jaw aching, you pull out the book. The whispers you'll hear tonight are the echoes of a truth deliberately silenced, a truth that could shatter your perception of the past, and by extension, your present. Get ready to question everything. You've never seen a toothbrush. You believe demons live in fog. Your town blames goats for the plague. Welcome to the Middle Ages. The truth is not in the abbot's gilded Bible. It's buried beneath your feet, in the cold, unforgiving earth, waiting. If you love immersive, real storytelling about survival, belief, and forgotten lives, hit like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. What they don't want you to know is that science did not die and get reborn in the Renaissance. It went underground. It was preserved in secret communities, in the monasteries of Ireland, in the libraries of Cordoba, and in places like this. 99% of people believe Copernicus was the first. The truth is, he was the first one who lived to tell the tale. The church knew the earth was not the center of the universe. They had the same Greek texts. It's a universal human connection, an unspoken pact against the boot on the neck. You nod, a tiny, grateful gesture, and plunge down the hidden path, the sounds of pursuit momentarily confused. You have found your first ally. The path leads you to a charcoal burner's camp, a miserable clearing of smoldering earth mounds and a crude lean-to. The air is acrid with smoke, and the man who greets you is covered in soot, his skin and clothes dyed a uniform gray. His name is Piers. The official history says your people are ignorant, superstitious, and helpless, little more than beasts of burden, living in mud and filth, waiting for salvation or damnation. But you've seen things, whispers in the village, remedies that work when the priest's prayers fail, almanacs carved into the beams of barns that predict the seasons with an accuracy that feels like witchcraft. What they don't want you to know is that the Dark Ages were intentionally darkened. And you hold in your hand not a leather book, but a small, glowing screen containing all the knowledge of the world. And you have to ask yourself the same question you asked in that dark tunnel all those centuries ago. Who is trying to keep it from me? This place is the heart of the resistance, a secret repository of all the knowledge the abbot and his kind have tried to burn, bury, and forget. And the cliffhanger is not one of danger, but of overwhelming revelation. Cadfael points to a vast, intricate star map carved into the entire back wall of the cavern. At its center is not the Earth. It is the sun. Heliocentrism, Cadfael says, the word foreign and beautiful. The truth of the heavens, known to the Greeks, preserved by the Arabs, and branded as the foulest heresy here. Knowledge that would give the peasants power, independence. The Reeve and two other men emerge from the woods. The peasant, the farmer, sees them. He sees you. He sees the panic in your eyes. He is a stranger, a man whose life is worth less than his lord's hunting dog. But in a split second, he makes a choice. He subtly angles his plow, pointing with his chin towards a small, overgrown track leading away from the village. He is risking a beating, or worse, for you. The church buried this secret for 800 years, until archaeologists found the evidence just last year. What they unearthed proves that the story of the Middle Ages, the one you were taught in school, is a meticulously crafted lie. You are standing in the scriptorium, the air thick with the smell of beeswax, drying ink, and the faint, ever-present scent of human sweat. The candlelight throws your shadow, a monstrous dancing giant, against stone walls that have seen 1,000 years of secrets. Outside, a dog barks, a sharp, lonely sound in the suffocating silence of the monastery. After Compline,